Hi, it's Ione, and this is what I do on the Cryostat, which is basically the brain cutting machine. So that's my little brain in the Falcon tube. It's stored in glucose right now because it just finished the last steps of the fixing process. I'm dumping the glucose out into my waste Falcon tube because I don't need that. Now you want to be really careful when you're getting the brain out, which is why I kind of like jiggle it a lot because even though it's been fixed, it's still really fragile and you don't want to disturb the tissue. So now I'm using my tweezers to put the brain on the cutting block because I need to do some manual cutting before I can actually trim on the cryostat. So I'm taking off the olfactory bulbs and maybe like 1/16 of a centimeter in the posterior complex. And now those are the parts I don't need. I'm putting them into my waste falcon tube, and then that goes in the biohazard bin because I don't need this anymore. It's my last brain of the day that I'm cutting. So that's the platform that the brain is going to rest on. You put OCT on top of it, which is a kind of glue. It stands for optimal cutting temperature. And you want to put your brain right on there and make sure it's not lopsided or anything, because then it's going to be really funky when you cut it. And you want to make sure you get a really even specimen of all the regions of the brain. So now I am labeling the tubes that each aliquot is going to go in when I actually cut the brain. You want to make sure that you have a really intricate labeling method here, because if you mess up and if you get brain aliquots confused or entire brains confused, then your project is going to be super messed up. So that's my chart that I keep it in. I'm writing everything down. You want to make sure it label kind of like the date perfused, the date of birth, the sex, the mouse number, and the day you cut it. So this is me labeling every single one of my 6 little tubes. It's really tedious, but it's totally worth it because you want to have enough aliquots to make sure that if something goes wrong, you can just try it again. So after I've finished labeling all of those tubes, I'm going to put them in the tray so I can transfer the brain slices directly from the cutting block that's inside the cryostat into my little tubes so nothing happens to the tissue in between movements. And that is my little setup that I have. Each color is a different brain, and you have 6 aliquots of the same brain, like I said, just to make sure you have enough if you mess up. And so both while in the cryostat and after you're finished cutting, these brains are going to be sitting in -20 degrees Celsius. So you want to fill the tubes with antifreeze so they kind of have something to sit around in so they don't freeze and the tissue does not break, because you need this tissue completely malleable. So once you have all of the containers prepped and your brain is hopefully hardened and the OCT is all hardened, you want to place your things inside the cryo so you can just really quickly cut the brain, put it in there, and then be done with it. So now I'm just checking to make sure that my brain is level, because you will have to adjust it if it's not level. That's what the inside looks. You can see little brain mounted in the back. All of the different knobs that are behind it are to adjust forward and backward and side to side to make sure that you are cutting completely level and you don't get any sideways slices. Again, that's what the brain looks like. That picture is from kind of farther along, but you get the idea. The white stuff is the OCT. And so now you're doing some trimming with the machine because you want to get exactly to the part that you want the specimens from, and they're really thin slices, so you don't want to cut any more than you need to. And so now I'm cutting. Every time I spin the wheel, it makes one slice, and then you put it in one container, and then you move on. Do it 6 to 8 times. I usually do it around 8 just to make sure I get everything. And it takes a really long time. So after I finish getting all the slices and I hit the part of the brain region that I know I don't need anymore, you're going to return the blade back to home so you don't cut yourself or anything. You are going to close all of the tubes because now these brains are even more fragile than they were before, because they are only 80 microns thick, which is really, really, really thin, and so they're super fragile. And then you want to take the leftover OCT and brain section off of the cutting platform, because this is a machine that everyone in the lab uses, so you don't want to leave your stuff behind. So you put that in the bio bin because you don't need that anymore. And then you're just kind of cleaning up. You want to take your razors out first. so you don't cut yourself while you're cleaning the inside of the cryo. And you put that in the sharps bin along with all the razors that I use to manually trim. And then you are putting all of your stuff, well, I am putting all my stuff back in the cryo kit, which I take with me, the cutting block, the pipette, and all of that stuff that you need. And again, this is what my tray is going to look like after maybe 3 or 4 hours of cutting. And you want to remove your tray from the cryo last because the cryo is temperature regulated. It's like negative 25 degrees Celsius in there, and you want to get them to the minus 20 refrigerator as soon as you can. And they sit there until you're ready to stain them. Okay, bye, thanks.